This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Things have been a little weird this offseason on Rocky Top. The stars don't seem to be aligning for this year. Does that matter? Does it even matter that the stars don't feel like they're aligning? Let's talk about that here on the Sports Source Digital Network. I'm John Pennington. This is Ryan Callahan. All right, let's just run through the list. In terms of smooth off seasons, this one hasn't been smooth.
Yeah.
You go back to January. Your best player on the team, basically, Jermod McCoy, tears an ACL. Okay.
Working out at home, not even on campus.
Yeah, working out at home. Miles Kitzelman tears a pec, needs surgery. Okay. Nico, spring game, leaves at the spring game. So you got to go out and you start going after different people, and everybody's talking about, they're going to get the guy from Illinois, they're going to get the guy from Iowa State, they're going to get, no. They're going to get the guy that UCLA cast off to get Nico. That's a concern. That's not a great look. But then everybody convinces themselves that Joey Aguilar is going to be far better than Nico. Joey Aguilar is a hidden gem. Okay, maybe. Maybe in this system, he may be. Then you get to camp. Your receivers aren't all out there. You've got injury to Chris Brazzell. Throw on top of that, you got Chris Brazzell getting an arrest, which is not a big arrest. It's a silly, It's an absolute, I think you used the word, nothing burger.
Yeah.
Okay.
This isn't holding up a gas station or
with
anything
a BB
like that.
gun. Yeah. Boo Carter, is he staying? Is he going? Did he do the things he needed to do in the offseason? Obviously not. There was a confrontation, which isn't unusual on football teams, where a fist will confront with a face occasionally. So you had confrontation there. You've got his mother now back on social media as of Tuesday. She's back on social media starting stuff. It just doesn't feel like one of those years where everything is coming together and clicking. That may not mean anything.
Yeah.
I remember in 2005 at Tennessee, it sounded like everything was peaches and cream. They were number 3 in the country. They wound up 5-7.
Yep.
You never know. Maybe this is building character, building culture. Do you have any qualms about the fact that this offseason feels a little wonky?
Aside from the Nico part, not really, because I think most of it, I don't fault Tennessee for the way they've handled most of it.
And to be clear, I'm not either. I think sometimes you just get dealt weird hands.
Right. So I think that's worth noting here, because if it's a situation where Josh Heupel is responding to these situations and it's causing him to lose the locker room or something like that, that's where I think it can cause issues. In this case, the Boo Carter situation has been a little weird.
That's the closest, I think.
That's the closest, but I think most of the team's been supportive to a degree there, and everything's been okay so far. We'll see how that plays out.
I'll get back to that.
But yeah, so if there was a situation where you're questioning, if there were real off-field problems, teams getting in huge fights off campus and getting arrested, things like that, then okay, maybe there's a little more to be concerned about.
But old Tennessee stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys beat up in a bar.
The old former Cup years.
Yes, exactly.
But this is less that, and I think, and I'll throw in some other negative stuff you probably forgot, because I think a lot of fans lump this all in there too. It wasn't an inspiring offseason in terms of what they added from the transfer portal.
Yep.
The lack of a star addition at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Because Tennessee put all its eggs in one or two baskets that didn't work out, and next thing you know, you're asking, why did they just get Amari Jefferson in the transfer portal this offseason when they have a clear need there and ended up shorthanded?
You lost depth at tackle.
Lost depth at tackle
as well.
Yep. So the lack of inspiring offseason additions, especially when a lot of other SEC teams have done those types of things this offseason.
At receiver specifically.
At receiver and other positions. That's concerning to fans on top of all that. So yeah, coming off a college football playoff appearance where you'd think Tennessee's building momentum, working toward not just getting back there, but winning a game and advancing, this isn't what fans expected to see. So some of it's, as you said, just kind of things that have happened, not really their fault, and I think they've handled it well. For the most part, I think that's the takeaway, is that the team seems to be all pulling in the same direction, maybe even more so than last year's team. And that's the positive. The negative is your roster good enough to make that matter? Is your roster, did you strengthen your roster enough?
It probably is pure talent-wise.
Yeah.
But it's so young.
Yes.
My fear is you may be, even without some of the key additions people wanted, and even with some people leaving, talent-wise, this is probably as good a roster as he's had.
Yes.
It's not a veteran roster.
Yeah.
So how much does that hold your talent back?
Yeah.
The fact that they're green.
Well, it's a veteran roster in spots still.
That's true.
The defense returns.
The offense, though,
7
which is
starters.
His bailiwick, and it's all green, basically.
Yeah, the offense is a total wild card in most ways. Three returning starters, basically. So it's it's just a weird team, and I don't think a lot of people nationally know what to do with them. I think that's why you see them ranked 17th in the coaches poll and 24th in the
18
in the AP.
and 24. Yeah.
18 and 24.
It's a pretty big gap for polls.
I think that it's coaches kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt because they were in the playoff last year. Writers thinking, they lost a bunch. They changed quarterbacks. This is not. And this offseason I think plays into that. There's not a lot of positive buzz around Tennessee this offseason relative to I think how a lot of us who cover the team look at them talent-wise. I think we think of them as better than a number 24 team in the country based on what the talent is. Like you're saying, it's unproven in some spots, but it's a talented team. But there's just not been a lot of buzz to make people think it's going to be a great year for Tennessee.
I think that's one reason Boo Carter is still on the team. I think there's been a lot of negative pub, a lot of people looking at if you had the Nico thing and then Boo Carter leaves and that's an ugly show and the family files lawsuits or whatever, if they, we don't like the confrontation that went on, or they talk about they weren't fair to our boy, whatever. I think they want to avoid that because if you still had Nico, it's one guy. On top of Nico, which I don't think was their fault, if you do it on top of Nico, then people around the country are going to say, what's going on at Tennessee?
Yep.
What's happened to the culture there in a program where the guy has pretty good culture?
And to your point, I've seen people asking that even with Boo Carter still on the team.
Yeah.
With that being said, I don't fault Tennessee for handling it that way. I get the PR reality is something to consider. But I think there's something to that. I think it would be an interesting test case. I wish we could go back and kind of game it out if Nico's still here, how Tennessee would handle it. But I think his stature, I think we saw the reaction. I think this fan base thinks Boo Carter is one of the best players on the team, and I think that's part of it. I think it's the fact that he's an in-state star.
A lot of people around the country do. Everybody's looking at it and saying this is one of your best players. Now, I know that we did a thing with you. You're not as high on him as the rest of us are.
I just think internally.
You think he's good, but you don't think he's.
And I think internally, I think Tennessee's kind of viewing. Jalen McMurray is playing pretty solid at the star position right now. I don't think this is I don't think Tennessee's seeing this as a potentially catastrophic deal if he's not in the starting lineup to open the year or whatever.
Okay, then the question would be, now there are reports, and I'm not sure when this will go up.
Yeah.
So it'll be up by Thursday probably. We're taping this on Tuesday. So if anything's changed, you'll know why. There's talk that he's been late to practice. Boo Carter, It would seem to me, if you start off on the wrong foot and you're having to jump through hoops to get back in your normal setting, because reports were at the scrimmage he was fielding punts. He was not out there practicing on the defensive side of the ball, so he's not back to where he needs to be yet. If you're not where you need to be and you're having to jump through hoops and you show up late, I'm sorry, shouldn't that be last straw? At what point do you just say, because at some point the team, leadership council or no, at some point the team is going to say, how many chances are you going to give this guy? Would I get 500 chances?
Yeah.
I like Heupel. I trust him on 99.9% of this stuff.
Yeah.
But this is one where I think, okay, you may be teetering here.
Yeah.
He's got a better feel for the pulse than I do, obviously. But this is one where I can see if the players took it into their own hands earlier this season, there's some issues. There's some people that look at this guy a little squirrely.
Yeah.
If you're now showing up late on top of that, I got to think there's people noticing that on the roster.
Yeah, and it's something you gotta really think about. Again, I think they took this step trying to salvage the situation and trying to make it work. And
because Nico left.
Very, very possibly. And if you can salvage it, I think he's on a pretty short leash. It's just what has to be that final straw. Is it something? Can it be something as simple as?
It's a longer leash than I thought.
Yeah.
If he's late for practice and he's still on the team.
Yeah. So that's I don't know what I would do in that situation, but if I've gone to such lengths to make it work, I don't know that I would want to throw it away over something not I'm not saying it's not a big deal that that if you're late to something, but that is something that
if that's how you got in trouble in the first place
Yes.
by not doing what you're supposed to be doing,
Yes.
no, that's an awfully big deal.
Yeah.
If I'm giving you a second chance, at some point you're just
right.
throwing a pie in my face.
Yeah.
Hey, here, I'm going to give you a second chance. Yeah, I'll see you when I see you.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the door.
Because on one hand, if you were to get rid of a player like that after going to all this trouble, then you look like you've bent over backwards to save it, and you shouldn't have, and then it still didn't work out, and you get the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I wouldn't do that. I would say, look, you gave the guy a second chance. You gave him a shot.
A lot of people probably
Leadership council looked at it.
Yeah.
You did what you did, and he still couldn't get out of his own way.
Yeah.
At some point, I got to cut you loose.
Yeah.
One thing I don't want to hear, though, because it's changed, I have heard people say, well, he's trying to help this young man because, in the past, it's not the past anymore. Boo Carter, at the end of this season, whether he plays the entire season at Tennessee or not, at the end of this season, he will be on a jet plane to Boulder, Colorado, where he will make $1 million, $2 million. Dion and his group, they'll pay him. They'll pay him.
It won't be $1
something.
million, but yeah.
They'll pay him. You get my point.
Yeah.
He ain't going to be hurting. It's not like he's going to be on the street because of this.
Yeah.
I think he's got suitors. So, and I don't know. It depends. Yeah, you are going into revenue share, so maybe it will be less. But I don't know. People making a lot of money out there.
There are many seven-figure players, even out of the transfer pool, but fewer than people would realize. It'd be pretty special.
Athletic did a recent thing where they broke it down. It's like certain positions you get a good load of cash.
Yeah.
But that's also, there's no way to prove any of that. That could just be people saying they're making more than they are.
Well, and to your point, I'm not paying a nickel $1 million either.
Yeah.
That's
last thing in terms of, you made an interesting point about the college football playoff, and people thought, well, okay, you hit the ground going, now you take the next step. Mm-hmm. You're moving forward. I had somebody recently, maybe they put it to me in a comment section. I respond to your comments. They said something about the fact that, well, I didn't expect to have depth issues or a rebuild in year 5. How can you have that in year 5? And I responded and said, because it's not the same system.
Yeah.
You're now in a situation, it could be year 15.
Yeah.
You could win 10 national championships in 15 years, but if all 22 of your starters decide we're going to go make money in the portal, it's a rebuilding year.
Yeah.
The idea of, okay, college football playoff, now we build from here. Look, if you're Ohio State, you never seem to drop off. If you're Georgia, you never seem to drop off. Everybody else, Alabama even had a drop-off last year. We'll see if they jump back in DeBoer's second year. But looking at this, I get what you're saying, and I think that is how people look at it. It's like, wait, we're at the playoffs. Why are we taking why is it getting wonky this offseason?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be every year, most schools are going to be biting your nails.
Yep.
Whether or not it's oh, God, it's gone to hell, or smooth sailing. I just don't think anybody's going to be able to coast along anymore the way you used to, where you had stability, because the system isn't bred for stability.
No.
That's the problem.
And that's an important distinction. I think fans have to change the way they view it, because that is the reality. You can't just say, hey, we made the college football playoff last year, got to keep onward and upward, keep escalating. First of all, everyone in the SEC is coming after you. So, I mean, a 16-team league, it's going to be even harder to stay up there. And on top of that, the transfer portal makes it hard to keep a team together. You can't just assume that your talented freshmen are going to stay. And you mentioned the depth. Your tackle depth takes a hit because Larry Johnson is your third tackle. He thinks he's good enough to go play somewhere.
That's right. Nobody wants to be a backup.
So it's that much harder. Georgia's dealing with that. Alabama's dealing with that. Everybody is. But it's hard to keep depth together. So everything's more year to year. And just the stuff Tennessee's dealt with this offseason, it's a reminder that everything can fluctuate from one year. There's no more linear progression in college football. It's just 1 year is 10 wins, the next year might be 8, and then the next year might be 11. Yeah. It could be completely erratic, and fans are going to have to get used to that, and that makes it harder to accept, I think, when bad things happen and you think you're set up for success. It's going to make it even harder for fans to accept, because they think that was our chance.
What happens if somebody sells an oil company in the SEC and they go Texas Tech for 1 year?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they spent an insane amount of money that everybody else spent here. You spent here with everybody else, but this team just spent crazy cash. Mm-hmm. What do you do? Now, granted, you've got who knows what the system's going to be.
Yeah.
Revenue sharing, NIL, it's up in the air. But there are so many variables now that weren't in place before. So the idea that, well, we can't be rebuilding, or we took a step forward last year, why is it so wonky this year? I think it's been a wonky off season, but I think we're probably going to, I think most schools are going to see more wonky off seasons than they've ever seen before.
Yeah.
So that gets back to the initial question. Is this something you're freaked out by? I don't like the way it feels.
Yeah.
I don't think it feels like you're heading into a smooth, oh man, everything's clicking. At the same time, I don't know that it matters.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of schools are going through the same kind of weirdness that Tennessee is now. I just
Right.
think it's the world of college sports and college football in particular has kind of bred this now.
I agree. I don't think it's a huge concern. And I think the fact that Tennessee, again, has a more culture-centered approach, I think they are in a better position than most to navigate tough years like this. So, yeah, it's not ideal. You had a quarterback leave at the end of spring practice, and you had to go through some kind of turmoil. But outside of that, I think the other stuff is mostly stuff you can navigate. It's more perception, honestly, than stuff they're actually having to deal with. And to some level, I don't know that the locker room, the team is all that invested in the outcome of the Boo Carter situation. I think they're whatever Heupel wants to do with this, fine. Either way,
I think
whatever.
there are a couple of guys who are invested.
Sure, there are. But yeah, overall, is the team hanging on every word to find out what's going to happen with Boo? I don't know. So I think for the most part, it's the kind of thing that like the Nico deal to me was tougher to navigate than that. So I think in a lot of ways, the Nico thing was the real test. Everything else is mostly stuff fans worry about.
I think you run a real risk if there's one set of rules for one guy and another set of rules for everybody else.
If it gets out of hand,
especially if this guy, as you say, isn't as good as the rest of us tend to make him out to be.
Yeah.
If they're looking around saying, why is this guy getting – I mean, I always go back to the Lawrence Taylor thing.
Yeah.
It's famous. Lawrence Taylor just lived on his own planet.
Yep.
And Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick just looked the other way because on Sundays he was a game wrecker. He would win you the game, kill the other guy. Boo Carter ain't that.
Yeah.
So if I'm on that team and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do and he's not, and we've had a blow up once before, and now you told him, I'm reading you the riot act, follow the law. And he's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are people noticing, but I don't know. You may be.
Well, I just say, I mean,
May not be the end of the world.
Yeah, if it gets to that point, I think players would care. I think right now, I don't think they're too worried about it. I think they're just like, okay, whatever it is, we'll deal with it. If he's not a starter anymore and he comes in off the bench, we're fine.
If we get a story of another confrontation,
Yeah.
I'll bring you back and remind you of this conversation.
Well, that's not to say they don't care what he does. Just that I don't think they view the team's outcome this season as hinging on whether he takes care of his business.
No,
or not.
I'm thinking they'd be more than happy to say, get out. We all pull our weight here. If you're not pulling the weight, there's the door. That would be. I mean, you had some guys who kind of made that comment about Nico without calling him out.
Yeah.
They talked about the fact, hey, the guys who want to be here are here. I think it's in that realm is what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. Ryan Callahan, always enjoy talking with you. Thank you very much. From Go Vols 24/7, you can find him there. Folks, be sure to hit the thumbs up. Be sure to hit the subscribe button for us. That really helps us. Be sure to ring the bell, the notify button, but also leave a comment. The comment, you can debate with the other people on here back and forth, and sometimes I'll get in there and tussle with you. But it's good for me to know what you're thinking. And sometimes we take some of those comments, use them on my Sunday show. We may use them on the Saturday show as well. I thank you for watching the Sports Source Digital Network. We'll see you next time.